So I'm Ben. Two small, tiny bits of admin. There's not a lot of oxygen in the room, so I'm going to go every now and then just so I can get my brain going again. I'm going to have to go through this super fast. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to questions. So I'm Ben Janecke, other Ben on ZA Tech, and Ben Janecke everywhere else. I've got emails. Email me questions. Ask me things on ZA Tech. I'm always, always, always there. Nerves are crazy today. Let's get started. Right, so this is how we friction weld in the real world. We glue bits of metal together. And this is how we friction weld in Ruby. Sucks. So let's go into this. When you inherit from something, it's like giving it a phone. It sucks. It goes everywhere with you. It keeps reminding you it's there. And if it's broken, your life falls apart. So let's look at going everywhere. This is my little straw man example. It sucks. It's a connection. You open TCP, you send it a command, you get stuff back. That's what I'm going to use. Deal with it. So I have this thing called a knocker. It talks to a port, sends it a command to use there. Think API health checks or something. That's better, right? So now we go, hey, I have a joker, because I can't just knock on the thing and get something back. I really need to know if it works. So better API health check. To the real world though, I have a customer that needs to talk to a TCP connection to be able to give some money to someone else. And that also uses connection. So that's the whole goes everywhere with you thing, right? So we've got command, it's everywhere. That's great, that's useful. Let's talk about it reminding you that it's there. So we have that little orange thing in our joker. It tells you about bananas. And I go in one day, I've had a terrible day, and I go, you know what would be cool and fun to do? Make that a bear command. So I go, right, this little method missing war crime that just sends everything to command. And then the next day, I go and do my actual job and try to make an HTTP endpoint for my account service. And it doesn't work. Something's broken there. And I try to write a test, and the command's getting there, but it's not the command I want to get there. This gets there. And I stare at it, and what's wrong? I don't know what's wrong. Oh. If it's broken, your life falls apart. So what's actually going on here, right? We want something, but we get everything. That's the famous Joe Armstrong gorilla banana problem thing. So what do we actually want? On our customer, we want a command, and because our customer service really, really sucks and breaks all the time, we want to be able to retry. Our joker, we want a bear command because I wrote that thing and it's going to stay there and I was right. So where do you think retry belongs? Does it go onto the connection? It can't, because we have joker. And joker actually needs to break when the service isn't there, so we can't retry the whole time. What about we make a new thing, a retry connection? Inherit from connection, retry connection, customer. That sucks because now other things are going to use retry connection and we're going to have the same thing. And now we're getting the entire jungle. So customer, can put it on customer. It's the only thing using it. The problem is customer isn't just those 4 lines I showed you. It's our God object. It's everything. So now I add retry to that and all our tests break and now we have to keep holding on. By the way, the customer service people came back to us. They said, you tell us our stuff keeps breaking. It's because you hit us too much. So we have 5 services now, and you need to round robin between them, and we're going to rate limit you. So we need a connection pool. We need another way to stick this together. We can't friction weld this. So this is how we staple stuff in the real world with staple guns. And this is how we staple stuff in Ruby with modules. So most of you are aware of modules. I'm just going to go through 1 or 2 of them. So I made our little connection thing, our TCP server, a module. Modules can actually like inject state into your objects. So like servers there, this one can talk to a bunch of servers, and that little ellipsis there is just the loop on the TCP connection. So we've got that. Now we can give that to Joker, we can give that to everything else. We can go make a bare command module. This is retry. So all this does is it kind of expects there to be a super. There should be another command there. So it just keeps recursing until you hit your max retries. And then it tells you, we kind of failed. And then you can mix those in. So think of these as behaviors. There's bare command, missing an if statement, terrible slide. Think of modules as behaviors. They're kind of like, has a thing, needs a thing, give it to it. Don't inherit all the way down the chain. P.S. They're not too hard to test. So we make a little double, and then we make a new, think of it as an anonymous class inside the test. We give it our with command, and when we initialize, we start with our little double there. So then we can make the instance, send the command, and because we have a reference to the TCP server we're hitting, we can do expectations on it. It's quite useful. So objects get a whole lot of hate. And I'm part of the functional development hegemony, so I'm going to scream and shout at it. But even I need to admit one thing. They can be useful, and they manage state really, really well. So think about our connection pool, right? It's an expensive thing to keep around. We want it to live forever. We need to know where the servers are. The pattern you use for it is a singleton. There's a million talks about singletons and lifecycle and blah, 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 blah. Google that. But we're going to make a singleton. How do we glue stateful objects to our other objects? We can't use modules because now there's like shared state between everything that gets the module. That sucks. And it needs to be a singleton. Modules aren't singletons. You can put them on singletons though. We can't add it to connection because not all of our connections have pools. We could technically write our pool to just take one connection, but that doesn't suit my example, so I'm going to ignore that. So let's make a connection pool. Right? So it's a little class. It has command, thing that makes all the servers. Singleton, it's a module from Ruby. Gives you all the state stuff. There should be an initialize method there, but I'm lazy, and you don't care about that. I have command. That supers, that goes to with command, and then there's this random port thing, and that's basically just going to round robin between servers for us and make sure we're not hitting the rates and all that nonsense. And then just runs the command with that. So we mean to kind of like string this to our other objects without like friction welding it together, because we saw that that really, really hurts. This is where I breathe. So this is how we string communication together in the real world. This is how we string things together in the Ruby world. And this is where you start going, no, Ben, no, bad. But I'll tell you why this is cool. So Ruby gives us this thing called a delegator. It's really, really super useful. If you have an object that you want to send stuff to, you can wrap it in a simple delegator. So we're taking an instance of connection pool. We're going to take that singleton instance into this constructor. We're going to set it up as a delegator. And when I can't find something on customer, I'm going to send it back to the connection pool. So if you've ever heard about the whole multiple inheritance is a bad idea, blah, 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 do composition, you can do this, right? So you can take a bunch of instances of stuff, set them up as delegators, in your method missing, delegate to the right one. So you can pick priorities. You don't have a weird thing telling you, well, this thing's the priority and I'm going to super and go crazy. You just send the thing to the thing that's doing the thing. And then I can withdraw the command. So command is going to hit the command in here. Remember that calls super. Super's not going to find it. Going to go into method missing, going to send it to our delegated connection pool. Lots of stuff. Next. That's how you use it. I made it really, really small so you would think it's not confusing and complicated. It really isn't. This is just like a singleton thing, pass it to the customer, and now we can withdraw funds. And we don't have the bare command issue anymore because that's a module somewhere else. Yay! So it's called a delegator because it's delegating responsibility, right? So customer needs a pool, but it doesn't need to know how the pool works. A lot of other people call it inversion of control. So if you've ever heard about inversion of control, that's it. You take the thing, you pull it out, you delegate to it. Inversion of control makes testing a lot easier. So same idea. We have a reference to our pool, we pass the pool in, we call the thing, we make sure it gets called with the right stuff. So these are integration tests. You really should actually be using a type system for this, but these are hard to write in Ruby. If you can keep references to stuff, if you can invert control, it makes your life so much easier. So all of that's fine and great, but we don't build connection pools all day, right? We're delivering business value. So we do workflows, we do life cycles, we do pipelines. And this is where the little functional hegemony comes out. This is how we duct tape things in the real world. This is how we duct taped in the Ruby world. Right, so this is where it gets super complicated. Someone else is doing a talk on procs and lambdas, and they're really, really, really smart, so you should listen to them. I'm just going to give you a quick overview. So this is composition, right? So I have a function here called plug, and I'm going to, once that's done, pass it to sanitize name, and then give it arrays. So I have an array of people, and I can map over this composed thing. So that's all of your business logic-y stuff. You can build these pipelines. Small, reusable things that do their thing, do it well, you plug them together. What? So those are first-class functions, and they're lambdas and procs, and that's kind of what they look like. I won't go too much into it. Just going to give you a quick crash course. Lambdas, they're really, really specific about arity. Arity is the amount of arguments you take. So if you pass a lambda more arguments than it wants, it's going to blow up. Not enough arguments, going to blow up. Lambdas, in turn, inside of the caller. So the thing that's like invoking the lambda, if it returns, it goes back to that line. And procs, they don't care about arity. You can like pass them everything, and they don't care. Pass them not enough, and they blow up unless you deal with it. But there's like a super big trap there. They return outside of the caller. So if you have a return in your proc, it's going to actually like exit the thing that called it, and that's dangerous. So just be aware, please. Higher order functions. No, you can do that in Ruby. Aha. So you've got a method. You saw pluck earlier. plug looks like this. You give it some attributes, and then it pulls it off an object. So that's a method that gets some attributes. So this creates a closure. So these attributes now live inside the closure, like logs stayed in. It takes an item, reduces over those attributes, builds up a new object, that and that, same thing, builds it up and returns it. So this is like a little reusable function that you're making. It's a high order function, it's a functional concept, functional programming concept. You can totally do it in Ruby. You can do a lot of cool functional programming in Ruby. It might not be performant, and Nate can tell you more about that, but it's a thing you can do. So that's pluck. So this is symbol to proc. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but if you're going to be doing like lambdas and procs and stuff, learn about how symbol to proc works. Basically what it does is it goes and looks for a symbol and calls the toproc method on it with like an instance eval or something. But there's a few places it goes to look for it. I think it looks on inside of the caller's closure and then one level up or on the object being called. There's like a few places, but this is really, really useful. Just go spend an evening, learn where it looks for stuff. Also, I cheated. These stars, they don't really come with Ruby by default. You have to do something like that to be able to compose, or you can just go .call, but it's ugly and it doesn't fit on a slide, and I just felt disingenuous not showing you this. So I monkey patch proc, bad Ben. If you do monkey patching in your code bases, which most of you work with Rails, most of you know active support, you end up doing it. Ruby 2.0 got refine. Refine allows you to like open up an object and make a bit better decisions about when to monkey patch where and life cycles. And if you're doing that, refine. Bonus round, fight. Use blocks for life cycle. So let's say we have a pool again. I do things with the pool, open up my pool, yield the pool. After that's done, destroy the pool, return the result. So if I have a command, I can take the query, do things with the pool, pass the command. When this is done, pool cleans itself up. Bye. Very, very useful. Closures are great for life cycles, so use them for great good. That specific example helps the garbage collector. Don't keep references to things, otherwise your garbage collector isn't going to clean them up. So great good, great responsibility, Spider-Man. Closing thoughts. So Sandy Metz, I've heard Sandy say this before, you might need smaller bits, and that's stuck with me. But the thing is, it's easy to start thinking in smaller bits and do things in smaller bits, but we need to glue it back together at the end of the day. So I tried to give you some glue, and I hope that you're going to be able to break things into small bits and glue them together. So just to go over it again, modules are for behaviors, objects and delegates are for like big, stateful, scary things. Procs, blocks, and lambdas are everything else. Just do functional. That solves all your problems, right? Workflows, pipelines, life cycles. Follow your gut. Use the right glue for the right job. If you don't like stuff I said, that's fine. Just follow your gut. If there's something you do like and it feels applicable, apply it. Goodbye.